One, the nails screamed as they pulled free from the joists. The sound was sharp, like a gunshot in the confined space of the bedroom. I pried the first board up, then the second. Dust and splinters flew upward, coating my face. The floor was not just wood, it was a sealed lid. As the third board snapped loose, a pocket of air rushed out from the darkness below. It was not the stale, dry air of an attic. It was tomb-cold, heavy with the scent of damp earth, and something older, like crushed stone. The temperature in the room plummeted in an instant. I held my breath, the crowbar still tight in my hand, staring into the dark, narrow space that had been hidden beneath my life for nearly 2 decades. The silence that followed was absolute, waiting for me to look down. I clicked on my flashlight and aimed the beam downward into the void. The light cut through the gloom, reflecting off floating dust motes before hitting the dirt floor beneath the house. There, tucked tightly between the support joists, lay a structure. It was a pine coffin, its edges softened by time and moisture. The wood was no longer solid. It had begun to surrender to the earth, turning into a fine, gray dust that coated the surrounding soil. I leaned closer, my chest pressing against the jagged edge of the subfloor. The lid was warped, sagging inward as if the weight of the house above had spent decades trying to crush it into the ground. I traced the outline of the pine with the light. It was small, cramped, and entirely out of place in the architecture of a farmhouse. My breath hitched as I realized the scale of the object. It was not a storage box. It was a vessel for a human life, abandoned in the dark foundation of my bedroom. I reached down, my fingers hovering inches above the decaying surface, feeling the unnatural chill radiating from the wood. The reality of what lay beneath my feet settled into my bones. I had been living, sleeping, and dreaming, directly on top of a grave. The county investigators arrived an hour later, their heavy boots echoing on the hardwood as they moved into the bedroom. They did not ask questions. They simply knelt by the gap in the floor, their flashlights casting sharp, clinical beams into the dark hole. One of them produced a flathead pry bar, sliding it carefully under the edge of the pine lid. The wood, already brittle with age, groaned and splintered as it yielded. They lifted the board. The air in the room grew thick, heavy with the scent of long settled decay. I watched from the doorway, my hands pressed against the frame. Inside the coffin, the contents had collapsed into a chaotic arrangement of historical tragedy. Fragments of bone lay scattered across the base, bleached and fragile. A partial skull rested at the head, its jaw unhinged. The entire structure was held together by hand-forged, square-headed nails. Their iron rusted into the wood like jagged teeth. There was no shroud, no sign of care, just the brutal simplicity of a burial that had been executed in a hurry. The investigator reached down with a gloved hand, gently shifting a piece of rib to see if anything else remained. The bones looked small, defeated, and utterly exposed to the light for the first time in over a century. The investigators left with their bags, but the silence they left behind felt heavier than before. I drove to the county archives, seeking an answer that the bones could not provide. Margaret, the archivist, moved through the stacks with a practiced rhythm. She pulled a ledger from a shelf, the spine cracked and stained with age. She set it on the table and flipped through yellowed pages until she reached entry dated from the mid-1800s. She pointed to a hand-drawn map of the township. My farmhouse sat exactly over what was marked as a field burial zone for migrant laborers. My stomach tightened as I scanned the lines. This was not a family plot. It was a dumping ground.